The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Earnestly podcast coming to you on January 4th, 2020. Happy 20... Whoa. Did I say 2020? This is the second show I've done this, actually. I did it on a wrestling podcast, actually, a couple days, last night, rather. Take 3 Wrestling podcast. It said 2020. It's happy 2021. like we need to get forward. We need to move past 2020 because of a disaster. And I'm definitely more willing to do that. But me saying 2020 again, not good. Not good at all. Happy 2021 to everybody here in the podcast. Listen to the podcast far and wide. Looking forward to today's show. Looking forward to this year's shows. I'm looking forward to, not rebrand, but I'm looking forward to really getting the ball rolling this year on this podcast, on life, on everything in general. And then today I get home from work and my throat's kind of raw. You know, I'm looking forward to the podcast today, and then all of a sudden my throat's a little raw. I don't know, it's allergies again. I don't know if I'm coming out with a cold. I don't know. But I'm going to power through this anyway because I really want to get through this show today. I'll talk about. Well, when I say a lot, I don't necessarily mean a lot. More so just, you know, and today's going to be more of a sports-centric show, actually. And to be honest, most of the shows this week will be sports-centric. This Thursday, and for the next couple Thursdays, leading into the Super Bowl 57, I think it is, right, this year? 57? Or something like that. We're going to have previews every week. It is the most fun time of the year. One of the most fun times of the year for me, outside the NBA playoffs, NFL playoffs. I love NFL playoffs. But especially this week, you know, wildcard weekend around the corner. Not 4 games, 6 games, 3 games per day, Saturday and Sunday. We're going to have previews every Thursday, dropping podcasts Thursday, late Thursday, early Friday morning when we hit the feed. Myself, Big Jim James Niece, and Kyle F. and Nash on the podcast every week, scheduled this Thursday, every Thursday leading to the Super Bowl. Cannot wait. Cannot wait for this week's show, especially because we got a lot to talk about. Black Friday, you know, which really wasn't as black as we thought it was going to be. But we'll discuss all that on the show. Today, I actually wanted to touch on a couple things on the podcast. First off, now the regular season in the books, I want to review, you know, every year I do over-unders on both NBA and NFL. This year I did NFL, of course, in August with myself, Zach Degenerate, Chris Charismatic. Rather than bring them in the show, because that would take another 2 hours, I'm going to review where I had everything standing before the year started and where things end up in regular season for each team. So let's review this year, shall we, for this year's regular season. Over on the records. Arizona Cardinals, first off. Their number to start the year at Vegas had 7.5 wins. I took the under. They actually got to 8-8. Just missed the playoffs. Losing to the Rams in the final week of the season. Lots of there to talk about the Cardinals. Kyler Murray had a solid year, actually. Rumors about possibly Larry Fitzgerald probably retiring. Don't know. Hopefully he doesn't. He's a class act. But, I mean, if he calls it quits, it's hell of a career. But Cardinals were under. I had the under on the Cardinals. They on 8-8. Just missed the playoffs this year. The Atlanta Falcons, the over number was 7.5. I took the over, thinking the Falcons would be a good team this year. They let me down. They actually fired Dan Quinn in the middle of the year. I went over. Obviously, that did not happen. Their final record. It was 5. Let me pull it up real quick. My phone's a little behind the ball here. Their final record this year was 4-12. We'll see what happens there. Which coach they get. Matt Ryan's future, obviously, a lot of things to talk about there. The Falcons, the Baltimore Ravens. Their number was 11.5 coming to the year. I went the under, and I was correct on that. They were 11-5, and that's actually what I predicted too. I said they'd be 11-5 this year, and they were just there. They surged late in the year, and I say they're going to be the most dangerous team in the AFC in the playoffs because Lamar Jackson's playing well at the right time. Look out. The Buffalo Bills. This is the team I had a high ceiling for. All about Josh Allen. Josh Allen was able to do the damn thing and become a star and really break out. They could win 13-plus games, 12-plus games, and this, that. I had the over. They were at 9. I had the over on that, and they got to 13-3 this year. Congratulations to the Buffalo Bills this year on a terrific season. 6-0 in Division 2, by the way. Really, really good. The Carolina Panthers, their over number coming to the year was 5.5. I took the under. I was correct on there. 5-11 was the record. They were frisky early in the year, and they kind of fade late. But they were kind of frisky. Teddy Bridgewater was okay. He was solid. They probably needed a quarterback though going forward. I don't know if Bridgewater is the answer long term, but it is what it is. Cincinnati Bengals over number was 5.5 wins. I had the under on that as well. I also got that as well. They were 4-11-1. Now Joe Burrow got hurt, middle of the year as well too, ACL injury. We'll see how that goes. The Bengals were building, so this not surprising. They were another team that was actually playing well early in the year. They were kind of frisky early in the year, and then they once Burrow's injury happened, they faded out. Sorry for the coughing there, and Cleveland Browns over number was 8.5. I had the over. They got there 11-5 for the year, made the playoffs first time in I think it was 17 years, since 2002, first playoff berth. Congratulations to the Browns. Yeah. And funny, they played better without Odell Beckham Jr., OBJ. That's the shocking part. Makes you wonder, is he a trade block at the end of the year? Who knows? Dallas Cowboys. Their over number coming to the year was 9.5 wins. I had the over. They obviously went under. They were a 6-10 team this season. Dak Prescott did get hurt, obviously. I think it was week 5, I think it was. They never really recovered. Now they had a chance to make the playoffs when the East if they beaten the Giants and the Redskins to a loss, but of course none of those things played out, so it didn't matter anyway. We'll see what happens with the Cowboys and Dak Prescott because I feel like his value kind of went up after losing him because Andy Dalton he played okay the last couple games, but he was not the answer. I thought he'd be much better. Clearly that wasn't the case, so there are a lot of holes there. Ezekiel Elliott too had a rough year, by the way. I know it was the line. Oh, was the line playing bad this year, or the Ezekiel Elliott has already topped out? Who knows? Let's see. Denver Broncos over on the number coming to the year was 7.5 wins. I had the under on that, and I was correct as well. They were 5-11. John Elway today relinquished his duties as a GM. He will be president operations. So. He gave himself a raise. Drew Luck had some decent moments this year, too. We'll see. Broncos one of those teams I think next year will probably be flirting with a playoff spot. I always feel like the Denver, when they kind of have a bad year, a few years that we're down, they figure it out. A couple of drafts later, and they figure it out. I think the Broncos on the way up. We'll see. Detroit Lions, the over number was 6.5 wins. Had the under, of course, on that. I also got that as well. They were 5-11. We might have seen the last snap of Matthew Stafford in Detroit in Motown. We'll see. I don't know. I'm not sure if he has a player option, team option, or he's an outright free agent. I'm not sure exactly, but I saw an article about Matthew Stafford may have taken his last snap. Don't know. We'll see what happens there. And I'm kind of surprised no one's talking about it. With all the chat about quarterbacks and shifting quarterbacks, I'm kind of surprised that he hasn't been mentioned much with teams that may need a quarterback, a veteran quarterback. He's still pretty good. He's still a top 16 quarterback in the league, in my opinion. But let's see. Green Bay Packers, I had the over at 9 wins. They crushed this year, number 1 seed in the NFC. They were 13-3 once again, like last year. Aaron Rodgers, MVP candidate. Sounds and doubters like myself. I didn't doubt him, but I always felt like if the Packers didn't improve, and then if they cratered, that it could be last year. We see Rodgers clearly as in the case. He bounced back in a big way. Might be the MVP of the year. So, Houston Texans, their number was 7.5 coming to the year. I went over on that. Silly me. They were under. They were bad this year. 4-12. Wow, 4-12. And obviously, using DeAndre Hopkins was huge. But Deshaun Watson had a good year, actually. Look at his numbers. He actually was pretty good. He's actually one of the better quarterbacks in the league still this year, but this team just couldn't get it together. And they started the year off tough. They also fired Bill O'Brien after 3 or 4 weeks. So, but I can see this team bouncing back. They have a top 10 quarterback in the league, so they may not be bad for long. Let's put it that way. Indianapolis Colts over-under number was 9. I went under. I thought this was silly that was that high at 9. And apparently Vegas knew what they were talking about. I lost on this one. They got to 11 wins this year. Made the playoffs also too. Now Phillip Rivers, is he long for there? Long term? Well, I can't say long term. Will he be there next year? I don't know. A lot of rumors about Carson Wentz possibly going there, and especially now with the rumors about Carson Wentz demanding a trade, which we'll get to that in a second with the Eagles. But yeah, I totally flopped on this one. Jacksonville Jaguars over-under number was 4.5 coming to the year. It was low, and I thought it wasn't low enough. I went under, and of course, they hit almost to the bottom of the bottom. They got 1 win this year, 1-15, won the first game of the year, and then lost the next 15. Obviously, Doug Marrone got handed his walking papers earlier today. Rumors about Urban Meyer coming in there, possibly. Also, they had the first pick in the draft, so the obviously everybody thinks Trevor Lawrence will be the first pick in the draft. I'll tell you what, though, I had a conversation with Zach DeGenerate today at work, and he was saying that if they go after Urban Meyer and they get Urban Meyer, why wouldn't they go after Justin Fields instead, given the connection to Ohio State and all that? So something about. Still think Trevor Lawrence will be the first pick, though, overall. He's a generational guy. Okay. Where are we at here? Let me see. Oh, yeah. The champs, Kansas City Chiefs. Over number this year, coming to the year, was 11.5 wins. I went over, of course. They crushed it. 14-2. Lost to me in this game yesterday. Pat Mahomes, probably the MVP this year. We'll see what happens. Haven't liked the way they played the last couple weeks, though, to be honest with you. Like, they are the favorites to repeat, and they probably will repeat. But there's some signs there. I don't think they're infallible. I think if you catch them on the right day, you might be able to catch them, the Chiefs. Just saying. But 14-2, great year. Let's see who's next. The LA Chargers Las Vegas Raiders. Sorry, Las Vegas Raiders. Over number was 7.5. I went under. They got the over. Actually, I got this wrong. 8-8. They were a playoff spot. They were a playoff contender by the middle of the year, and then they just faded late. Derek Carr will he be there next year? We'll see. John Gruden, he had a good first half of the year, and then the team just faded. We'll see. LA Chargers over number was 7.5 also as well. I went under. I didn't see the meaning why it was so high. I got it right though, but they were just under at 7 wins. And a couple games there where they could have really, they cost themselves. Like a couple games where they probably could have been in the playoff race. Justin Herbert, rookie quarterback, had a phenomenal year. One of the best rookie seasons I've seen at the position. They fired the coach today, Anthony Lynn. I don't like seeing that, obviously, but I feel like he got canned because it was more of the game managing situation. You can't manage games, and you should be a coach. And I'm not saying Lynn's not a good coach, but again, a couple games there, they could have won this year had he managed the game well. And say 2-3 games, puts you in 9-10 wins, puts you in the playoff spot, a playoff conversation like in the AFC. So, see what it goes there. I saw a rumor about possibly Jason Garrett having interest in, or the team having interest in Jason Garrett going to LA. We'll see. LA Rams over numbers 9. I went over in this one. I got this one. They were 10-6. Weird year for the Rams. Had a lot of dead spots. Lost to the Jets this year. A couple of weird losses. But they got in the playoffs. That's all that matters. And we'll see if Jared Goff will be healthy enough to play in the playoffs, and see if the Rams can surprise some folks. I don't expect much really out of them, honestly. But I always thought they were a solid team, So, Miami Dolphins over under 6.5. I went under. I thought it was still a year away. I was clearly wrong. They were 10-6 this year. Missed the playoffs by virtue of losing the Bills, and then all of their scenarios did not work out. But I tell you, I'm so excited for the Dolphins. And they, you know, they, I feel bad. They deserved to get in the playoffs. They really did. And I don't know, the Tua thing. We'll see how that works out going forward. A lot of chatter about Tua and whether he's the future of the team. I say you obviously work it out. Second year, you know, a training camp to work with him, all that. I don't know. But I'm happy for the Dolphins. I wish they got in. I mean, they deserve it. The culture's been changed. Brian Flores done a phenomenal job. I think the future is so bright for the Dolphins. And living here, and this franchise hasn't really had anything to be excited about for a long time here. And now the Brian Flores, who's arguably, in my opinion, probably coach of the year. I don't know if he could give a coach who didn't make the playoffs coach of the year, but I mean, who else are you going to consider? I mean, you can say Andy Reid, but I mean, the Chiefs kind of sort of like fumbled late in the year a little bit, closing out games. I don't know. I feel like the only guy you can really look at that's really deserving of coach of the year is probably Brian Flores. Honestly, that's where my mind is at on that. So anyway, all right. Let's see. Minnesota Vikings. I had high hopes. The number was 9. I went over on the Vikings. They clearly didn't get there. They were, I believe, 8-8. Let me make sure I pop this up one more time. The Vikings were 7-9. Sorry, they were 7-9 this year. We'll see. I don't think Mike Zimmer will get fired, but it wouldn't surprise me because I think Black Friday. All the coaches today got canned. Are probably gonna. That's probably barring any surprises. I think we've seen all the, dismissals for coaches this year. But Mike Zimmer is the one guy I've heard. We hear a little bit here and there that maybe it's time to move on. I disagree. I think Zimmer is a good coach. I don't think. I think he deserves to turn this thing around. So we'll see what happens. New England Patriots over number was 9. I went over. 8-8 was the number. I got it wrong. Actually, I'm sorry. It was 7-9. Wow, tough year for the Pats. Cam Newton 1 year didn't work. He'll be gone probably. I'm really curious what they do at quarterback. If Cam Newton's done there, do they go in the draft? Do they go after a veteran like a Carson Wentz or Matthew Stafford or something of that magnitude? Who knows? Clearly, Cam's not going to work out. Clearly, Jarrett Stidham's not going to work out. So, what direction next? Call back Tom Brady, maybe? I don't know. But I'll tell you what, 7-9 for a team that didn't have receivers, a team that had a lot of situations where they got Cam Newton late, close to camp, and then have a chance to really learn the playbook. Also, a situation with, COVID scares and whatnot, and people opting out. 7-9 isn't that bad for the Pats, honestly. I think that speaks well of Bill Belichick, keeping that team relatively together. They didn't crater. They were 7-9, but they didn't crater. You at least got to respect that. New Orleans Saints over under numbers 10.5 wins. I went over. They got there. This will be the last year. Drew Brees most likely. We hear rumors of him retiring. I don't know. Saints got to do it. 12-4 this year. 6-0 in the division. We'll see what happens. They got a big game against the Bears. Obviously, the wild card weekend. I don't know. I don't think the Saints team's a Super Bowl team. I think they're a good playoff team. I think they'll get caught by Green Bay or, even someone like Seattle. And I think third time the charm, maybe Tampa gets them finally. I don't know. But, they're a solid team. But I think Drew Brees last year, and there was some dips this year, too, as well in this team. So, the Giants over under number 6.5 wins. I went under, of course. I got there 6-10. Again, like the Cowboys, and they only made the playoffs, didn't get in. But I like Joe Judge, first year coach. He did good. I like the leadership. I like boring. It's time to bring boring back. No more flash. Daniel Jones still kind of. I don't know. Daniel Jones. You see the talent there. You see the potential, but I don't know where I stand on him now. I mean, does he deserve a third year to try this out? Yeah, sure. But is he the answer? I don't know. There's still question marks. So we'll see. New York Jets over under was 7. I actually went push on this one. I was wrong. They were 2-14 this year. Terrible year. Obviously, they fired Adam Gase too. No surprise there. We'll see what happens if they keep Sam Darnold and let him walk. I don't know what happens there. They can obviously draft, a quarterback if they could. What a disaster for the Jets this year, though. Philadelphia Eagles over-under number was 9.5. I went over this one, and they were under. They were terrible this year. And this is one of the stories of the offseason now. Carson Wentz asking for a trade. Allegedly, the way that game ended yesterday against the Giants, where they benched Jalen Hurts in the fourth quarter and basically, quote unquote, tanking. It was a bad look. Obviously, I agree with Giants fans there. Myself agree there, but we don't get to be mad because we're 6-10. If we took care of our own business, we wouldn't need to rely on other teams to get the fucking job done. Just saying. So whatever is what it is. But the Eagles cratered this year. So we've probably seen the last of Carson Wentz in Philadelphia. They're probably going to be rebuilding now, most likely. Let's see. Pittsburgh Steelers over numbers 9.5. Also, I went over on that one. I got that one. They ended up 12-4. They faded late in the year. And we'll see how they look if they can turn it around. Remember, they started the year 11-4, lost 4 of the last 5 games. It's going to be. I'm really curious. I think the Browns have a chance to win that game, honestly. Even though the Steelers have pretty much, down them earlier. I know the Browns won the one here, but the Steelers benched all their players. So, but we'll see. The Niners, San Francisco 49ers, over numbers 10.5. I went under, of course. They were under. They were frisky, though. A lot of injuries this year, 6-10. That record is not indicative of how good that team is. I think they'll be back next year. I think next year they'll be much more competitive. And I think, but now I don't know if Jimmy Garoppolo will be the quarterback going forward. There's still questions there. But as a team, that culture, Kyle Shanahan's done a phenomenal job. I mean, they were definitely one of the hardest outs of the year. So, not gonna really give them too much blame there. Let's get 3 more here. Seattle Seahawks over numbers 9. I took the over. I got that one as well. I had them. They got 12-4. Russell Wilson started off well as MVP candidate. Faded a little bit late in the year. Seattle's weird. I mean, they're a really good team, obviously, 12-4. But Russell Wilson dependent. Defense is solid. They've been playing better the last couple weeks, but I don't know if I can trust. I trust Wilson. I don't know if I trust the rest of the team, though. Honestly, I don't trust Pete Carroll, and that's sad to say. Tampa Bay Buccaneers over number was 9.5. I went over. They got their 11-5. They had a couple of dips during the year, but they're playing well at the right time. Tom Brady had a great year. We'll see if Mike Evans is healthy for this game against Washington. I think Washington has a chance to win this game, especially if Mike Evans doesn't play. So we'll see. But yeah, very good first year with Tom Brady in Tampa. Tennessee Titans over our number was 8.5 wins. I went over as well too, and they got there 11-5. Derrick Henry, 2,000-yard season, should get MVP chatter. I wish he got more. But Tennessee is dangerous. I mean, they were there AFC Style game last year to halfway from winning the Super Bowl. They can win those real hard outs next in the playoffs. Finally, the Washington football team, not Redskins, the football team, over a number of 5.5. I went under, thought it'd be terrible. They got 7-9, win the NFC East on the final game of the season against the Eagles. Happy for them in a sense. Alex Smith come back from an injury, the gruesome injury. Ron Rivera from cancer, the coach. And I like the chances against Tampa, especially if Mike Evans is not playing. The injury to Mike Evans, of course. But, I don't know. But overall, I went 22-10 against the over-unders this year. 22-10, not bad. Not bad at all. Apparently, I know football. Anyway, before I go, I've got a couple of things we'll touch on here before we get out of here. Wrestling Best of 2020. Now, we did a podcast last night on Take 3 Wrestling Podcast. We did our combined, us three, me, Joe, and Mike, combined nominees, and we voted on the nominees in order, and we had the total, point system and who was top, wrestler of the year, male wrestler of the year, female wrestler of the year, feuds, all that. So what I'm going to do on this show is rather than give that version of it, I'm going to let you guys know what I selected, my top 3 feuds of the year, top 3 wrestlers of the year, my list I had for the show. So my top 3, let me go in order here. I'm going to go from the bottom to the top real quick here. So in terms of moments of the year, my top 3 moments of the year, number 3 for me was WrestleMania going 2 nights. Obviously it was because of COVID and all that. They did a good job all considering. Pre-tape show, all that. Number 2 was Undertaker's Farewell Survivor Series. And obviously, is what it is with Taker. He's gone back and forth, but I think he's done now. But with the bullet, number 1 for me was Edge's return at Royal Rumble. And the reason why the Edge's return was so huge at Royal Rumble was because of the fact that nobody saw this coming. I didn't see it coming. I didn't hear nothing. I follow dirt sheets. I follow that stuff. I follow the rumors and stuff on wrestling, and I heard nothing but Edge coming back to the ring. And he came back, and the reaction of the crowd. It was also the night that Cody Ryan passed away, so it kind of lifted my spirits a little bit when I had to see Edge back in the ring. So that was my number 1 moment of the year. My top 3 breakout stars. I'll go 1 to 3 real quick. My top 3 from 1 to 3 in order. Top breakout star for me was Darby Allin in AEW. Pat McAfee, NXT, and Kyle O'Reilly, also NXT. Pat McAfee, this 2 matches alone, and he's already made an impact in NXT. My top 3 tag teams of the year, we call them Cowboy Bebop, but it's actually top tag team was AEW's combination of Adam Page and Kenny Omega. Number 2 was Sasha Banks and Bayley, and number 3 was Street Profits. My top 3 feuds of 2020, I had Brody Lee versus Cody. I thought this feud was good. I feel like obviously you look back now, Brody Lee passed away last week. Part of the reason why they gave the belt back to Cody after Brody Lee won it in August on Dynamite was because of his illness. But I thought this feud, in the short time they did it, was impactful. They booked Brody Lee like $1 million. I'm very impressed with how they did that. And I thought, had Brody Lee been able to, obviously didn't have the health issues, maybe that's going to go on into the 2021, honestly. So I get number 1, obviously. And I'm sure, obviously, for me personally, I think maybe his passing may play a little into this, but honestly, I enjoyed the feud. Number 2 for me was Sasha Banks versus Bayley. Loved the Mega Power styled, best friends and they break up thing. I love how they tease that week after week. And the same thing with number 3, with Kenny Omega and Adam Page when they break up as a tag team after losing the tag belts at the pay-per-view in August. I think it was All Out. My top 3 female wrestlers of the year, as follows: Bayley number 1, Asuka number 2, and Sasha Banks number 3. I'll tell you what, this is a tough list because the 4, 5, and 6, for example, I had Io Shirai number 4. I had 5. Who was that? Britt Baker. Britt Baker was great this year, and not so much in the ring, but this as a personality. My top 3 male wrestlers of 2020 in order: number 1, Drew McIntyre, 2-time WWE champion, Jon Moxley, and number 3, Randy Orton had a phenomenal year. I haven't seen his entire career because I remember most of his career I did not watch until 17 years gone. But Randy Orton, and by the way, Mike and I had a big fight about this on the show last night. But Randy Orton had a phenomenal year. I disagree with him completely on that. It is what it is. But I think Randy Orton had a fantastic year. I think he was the best wrestler in the company, not named Drew McIntyre. Honestly, that's my opinion. Wrestler of the year, number 1, I went Bayley. I think again, Bayley held the fort down at a time where things was so in the air for the company because of COVID. Bayley was incredible. I hold Bayley to a high standard. I hold Bayley to a level of not just as a female, but as a wrestler in general. She's incredible this year. Her turning from a baby face last year to a heel, getting lost in that a little bit, and then now she's really embracing it. She was amazing. Number 2, Drew McIntyre. Number 3, Jon Moxley was my 3rd wrestler of the year. So those are my personal top 3s of those categories. Match of the year, honestly, was the Revolution match between Omega and Page versus the Young Bucks back at Revolution back in February. That was by far the match of the year. Probably the greatest tag team match I've ever seen in my life, honestly. All right, one more thing before I go. Today was the final episode of Dan LeBatard Show on ESPN. I'm excited for the guys, honestly. And by the way, check out the highly questionable social media page on Twitter, Instagram. His TV show he does, highly questionable, with his father, Poppy. Very emotional 5-minute goodbye speech by Dan. Phenomenal. I've been a Dan LeBatard fan from the 90s as a writer. When I was trying to become a sports writer, he's one of my heroes. I've been following the show since its inception in 2004. Remember, Dan LeBatard Show was a local show here in South Florida to begin with. the Stugotz. And to me, what made that show great and what continues to make the show great is the fact that they don't take sports seriously. They don't take life seriously. It's it's not your typical sports show where like, oh, the stats and this and that. They literally, did not, it was a slapstick show, but it was also a real show. And I've said for years that show honestly outgrew ESPN a long time ago. Like a long time ago. I thought, because of the restrictiveness, the chokehold, you can't talk about politics, can't do this and that. And we can obviously get into, the minutia of who's being treated fairly, whatever. But I think that LeBatard needs to have a platform where he's allowed to say what the fuck he wants, because he has a lot to share. He has a lot to share. His opinion matters to me because he's a very smart guy. He's a brilliant writer. He's phenomenal on radio. And to me, I thought the ESPN hindered that. I hated when they went to ESPN, honestly, because, when they were local here in South Florida, especially when they were a drive time show at 3 o'clock, you could be a lot more loose with things in the afternoon as opposed to the morning when you have to be more corporate buttoned up. And I listened to them a little bit less in the last couple of years because of that, because I felt like they were a little too buttoned up. And they weren't buttoned up completely, but it was buttoned up enough to in comparison to what they were before. I think now, what podcasting what is now, the digital medium, they have their own network already, as is anyway. I think now the shackles are off. And by the way, they're going to continue doing the show immediately. And they're not going to be off the air. They're going to be a podcast, pretty much a podcast only now going forward, which is great, because I love podcasts anyway. I think you're going to see the best of Dan LeBatard and that crew moving forward. I think the best thing that happened to them was them and ESPN honestly parted ways. I think ESPN had really held that show back. And I think now you're going to see something even further. If they want to curse, let them curse. You want to say about certain things, politics, let it happen. I'm all for freedom of speech and being able to have the right to say the things, as long as it's within the right, as long as it's not offending anybody in that way, hate speech, all that. But to me, I hate restrictions. I hate it. And ESPN, Dan LeBatard, he outgrew that place a long time ago. ESPN's already, I still watch ESPN. I love Stephen A. Smith and Bomani Jones, all that. But ESPN is no longer the be-all, end-all. It hasn't been for a long time. So I'm really happy for LeBatard and the crew, and hopefully wish them tremendous success moving forward on their own, wherever they go to next, Spotify, whoever the hell. But, yeah, LeBatard show. Best radio show, my favorite radio show of all time, honestly. So, anyway, that'll do it for me. I'm on Twitter. We get a cough drop. My throat's a little scratchy. You probably hear it now. I'm on Twitter, EJChristian7. Look out for the next podcast coming later in the week with my boys, Big Jim, Kyle Nash. We're going to preview the Wild Card weekend. I cannot wait for this podcast. Cannot wait. Anyway, guys, got to go. Spend time with the wife. Watch some Batman Returns. So, till then, love you guys. Take care. And again, Happy New Year. Happy 2021.